Hello there. Hi. I think I'll do a little bit more of the New Yorker article by Rachel Aviv. This would be part 5, I think. The other day I got a little notice on my channel saying that part 3 was not to be disseminated in the UK. That's the upshot of it. So you can't see that on my list of videos, but I can see it on if I look at all the videos I've put up on my other screen, But it's obviously they've taken it off, so that in the UK it wouldn't be searchable. It's kind of odd that they just do that to one of them. It's around these reporting restrictions, but as other people have been saying on Twitter today, Jairam can go to all kinds of meetings and talk about himself being a whistleblower. They're talking about this drama, but that's meant to be going to be supposedly written by Jed Mercurio or scripted by him. Looking at actresses that they're who's going to play Lucy Letby is just horrendous. I don't think anyone who does get involved in that project, they're going to regret it. Because it's going to bomb, because things are going to be overturned, the convictions are going to be overturned. I'll just carry on reading where I left off. In June 2016, 3 months after the change, that's the change from apparently from night shifts to predominantly day shifts. I say predominantly because I do remember from last year that there were, I think there's one of the supposed attempted murders happens at night during this period, so it obviously wasn't a cast iron move or a 100% move to day shifts. Perhaps it was predominantly that. So in June 2016, 3 months after the change, Cheryl texted Lucy Letby before a shift, "I wouldn't come in." "Oh, why?" Lucy Letby responded, 5 admissions, I vent. Sorry, 5 admissions, 1 vent. 1 ventilated, baby. I thought it was an I. 1 vent, 5 admissions, that's what Cheryl says. "Oh my God," or OMG, Lucy Letby responded. Excuse me. Cheryl added that a premature boy with haemophilia looked, quote, like shit, unquote, close quote. His oxygen levels had dropped during the night. Lucy Letby took over his care that morning and doctors tried to intubate him, but they were unable to insert the tube. So they called 2 anesthesiologists who couldn't do it either. The hospital didn't have any factor 8, which is an essential medicine for haemophiliacs. Finally, they asked a team from Alder Hey Children's Hospital, which is there's a level 3 unit there, I understand, which was 30 miles away, to come to the hospital with a factor 8. A doctor from Alder Hey intubated the child on the first try. Quote, "Sat having a quiet moment and want to cry," Lucy Letby wrote to a junior doctor, whom I'll call Taylor, who had become a close friend. Quote, "Just feel like I've been running around all day and not really achieved anything positive for him." Meaning, obviously, the baby with the haemophilia. This is the baby that, and Rachel Aviv isn't using the initials here. This is the baby that, or at least in this part of the essay, the baby that Lucy Letby was accused of attempting to murder by means of trauma to the baby's throat as one of the things that she was meant to have done to this baby. But yet we hear, and this isn't new information, but this has been long known, that there was many attempts to intubate a baby, more than should have been attempted in one long run of intubations. That was obviously, they weren't up to doing it. They didn't have the skills to do it because the level 3 doctor did it straight away. as we hear there. And, the signs that Evans pulls out of the notes is that there's all this there's blood being seen in the child's throat. The child is a haemophiliac, has haemophilia, and it's being intubated again and again, or the attempts are being made again and again and again and again. What's likely to happen there? Bleeding, obviously. And yet, how on earth does that get changed into, it's got to be deliberate harm, deliberate trauma? Well, there's so much more of an obvious explanation for it. It's just crazy, isn't it? What Rachel Aviv is calling, or she's calling Taylor, Dr. Taylor, who had become a close friend, I'm assuming this is a code name for Dr. A, who was allowed to give evidence in the trial behind a screen, but obviously Lucy Letby recognised his voice, and obviously by the things he was saying, she knew who it was. So we don't know who that guy is. There was some kind of idea around that it would cause him too much stress for him to be recognised who he was. That seems a bit of a weak excuse, doesn't it, really? Everyone else has to be. That was what was going around. It was that he was they were protecting him from undue stress. And I think there were a few nurses that gave their testimony, behind a screen, or without. Their names weren't given out, just initials. And obviously Dr. B fell under that as well. One of the gang of four, Dr. B, a female doctor. But Taylor, I'm assuming, is Dr. A here. So we can see with the things that Lucy Letby's saying that she's someone of high conscientiousness, and she wants to push herself all the time, and doesn't feel that she's doing enough, that she can't do enough, can't be good enough. And that's that sort of super level of conscientiousness that can lead when you're being targeted and bullied en masse by a group of these consultants, and being told that you're not good enough, and that you're suspected of. At this stage, perhaps she feels that they're suspecting her of not being a good enough nurse. Then you can see how an emotional extremist, you write the letters that you write those notes that came out, because you're being constantly undermined. Back to the article. A week later, a mother gave birth to identical triplet boys born at 33 weeks. When she was pregnant, the mother said she'd been told that each baby would have his own nurse. But Lucy Letby, who had just returned from a short trip to Spain with friends, I'll cut in there a minute. I think this is the one that just reminds me from Operation Hummingbird, where I forget her job title, but one of the officers in Operation Hummingbird, this sort of analyst of some sort with some grand title, but a police officer, said that a text that Lucy Letby had written just before she came back off the holiday was saying, "I'm going to come back with a bang," and that this police analyst read into that she was that Lucy Letby was obviously planning to ramp up her campaign of murders again, which is just mad, isn't it? It's just absurd. It's just so stupid. I don't know why that orange light keeps. It's weird, isn't it? But How mad is that? A text when I come back with a bang is just a bit of banter about I'm going to come back, or there's going to be a lot going on, and I'm going to try to, whatever it means, but it's not somebody admitting implicitly that they're going to come back and up their murder rate. That's the level of, I don't know what to call it. I don't think it's stupidity, actually. I think it's something a lot darker than that. It's a willfulness to, and it's born in a kind of arrogance and a kind of self-importance. So somebody doing that job, they have to justify why they've got that title. They're going to have to, I've come up with something. Oh my God, I've seen she's actually put this in a text. Yeah, that makes sense, because then there were 2 quote unquote murders afterwards, and that's what it must have meant. But it's stupid beyond measure. It's absolutely crazy. And the same when they got it. I mean, this one they obviously got explicitly wrong. That's obviously implicitly wrong, that reading of it from the police. But the explicitly wrong one was when they thought there was some secret code in Lucy Letby's diary, but it was just a code for long day or long shift, wasn't it? I can't remember the initials now, but it was 2 initials. I think it was like long days for the 12-hour shift, and they'd read it as an O instead of a D, I think, the police. Oh well, every time she writes LO, there's a murder or an attempted murder in their eyes, and it's just I'm going to move the. I don't know what's going on with these lights. It's mad. It's like some kind of. So, this is June 2016 now. Lucy Letby's just come back from Spain with a friend. She was assigned 2 of the triplets, so that obviously goes against what that mum's expectation was, as well as a 3rd baby from a different family. So that's how far they're stretched. Going back to Alison Timmis's email, they're just ridiculously overstretched, and it's unsafe to be so overstretched. It's unsafe for the children, and it's pushing the staff like Lucy Letby to the absolute limit. So she's looking after 3 babies. She was also training a student nurse who was, quote, glued to me, close quote. She, as in Lucy Letby, complained to Taylor, that's I think Dr. A. 7 hours into Lucy Letby's shift, one of the triplets' oxygen levels dropped precipitously, and he developed a rash on his chest. Lucy Letby called for help. After 2 rounds of CPR, the baby died. Yeah. It's awful that there are these deaths, but and there are other deaths going on. As I was saying in a previous video, the majority of deaths weren't attached to Lucy Letby in any way whatsoever. They weren't investigated as suspicious. The majority, I would say, at a minimum, 12 out of 19. If there indeed were 19, I think there are 19, but there could be more than 19. The next day, Lucy Letby was the designated nurse for the 2 surviving triplets. The abdomen of one of them appeared distended, a possible sign of infection. This is it when you look at what Dr. McConville's saying, and prior to that, what Dr. McLachlan was talking about. The signs of sepsis and NEC, necrotizing enterocolitis in practically all these babies. When she told Taylor, he messaged her, quote, "I wonder if they've all been exposed to a bug that benzyl penicillin and gentamicin didn't account for. Are you okay?" So yeah, some kind of bug from where, I wonder. Could it be from the all the pathogens from the hospital wastewater that have been dripping up in the crawl space above and overflowing into the sinks and up through the toilets and over the floor of the toilets. This constant firefighting with this, as they say on the We Need to Talk About Lucy Letby podcast, Victorian plumbing, with some of the most high acuity babies that are incredibly vulnerable to infection. Some already have infection from the get-go, and then they're put in this environment with incredibly overstretched staff and doctors that can't intubate a baby, on multiple goes, causing the bleeding that is then reframed as deliberate harm. And the bleeding, which would have been highly likely to happen with all those attempted intubations when the baby has haemophilia. It just shouldn't have been possible that none of these individually, this is a bit slightly different slant on what I've said before, not a single case individually would have ever reached a charge. Not a single case. And I think the block of all the ones outside of, like I've said before, the block of all the charges outside of the so-called insulin cases, they wouldn't have reached on their own. And the insulin cases wouldn't have reached on their own. Nor would they have been found, or would they have been looked for, as I said before. Lucy Letby replies, "I'm okay, I just don't want to be here, really." Lucy Letby replied. She's being overwhelmed and stretched, and she knows there's a campaign of whispering and rumours going on around her about her. Well, she's already been taken off nights. That's an attack on her confidence, an attack on her sense of self, and she hasn't done anything wrong. She's been a brilliant nurse. She hasn't done anything wrong at all. A lot of the doctors have. The student nurse was still with her, and Lucy Letby told Taylor, "I don't feel I'm in the frame of mind to support her properly," so she's having to worry about the student nurse as well, on top of having 3 babies to look after. I mean, completely overwhelmed, as well as being bullied as well as being bullied by this group of horrific people. A doctor came to check on the triplet with a distended abdomen, and while he was in the room, the child's oxygen levels dropped. The baby was put on a ventilator, and the hospital asked for a transport team to take him to Liverpool Women's Hospital, a level 3 unit, that is. As they were waiting, it was discovered that the baby had a collapsed lung, possibly a result of pressure from the ventilation, which was set unusually high. Wow. Quote, "There was an increasing sense of anxiety on the unit." Well, it's obviously been there right back into 2015, as we know from the paediatrician Alison Timmis's formal communication to Tony Chambers, the CEO. There was an increasing sense of anxiety on the unit, Lucy Letby said later. So she's saying that. Quote, "Nobody seemed to know what was happening and very much just wanted the transport team to come and offer their expertise," because they know that they're not going to handle it there. The medics, the doctors aren't going to handle it there. They're not set up for it. They haven't got the skills. And there's so often hardly any of them there. And the ones that are there are covering obstetrics as well, and they're splitting their time. The triplet's mother said that she was alarmed when she saw a doctor sitting at a computer, quote, Googling how to do what looked like a relatively simple medical procedure, inserting a line into the chest. She was also upset that one of the doctors who was resuscitating her son was coughing and spluttering. This is new to me, this. One of the doctors who was resuscitating her son was coughing and spluttering into her hands. without washing them. Same as the nurse, but so it's just, it's all over. The nurses doing it, doctors doing it. Shortly after the transport team arrived, the second triplet died. Tragic. Tragic because of being in the wrong unit. Nothing to do with Lucy Letby. She's doing incredibly with what, she's been so totally overloaded, and babies were sent to the wrong unit. The unit wasn't fit to look after the babies, that number of them, and too close together. Staff are ill, pathogens everywhere. His mother recalled that Lucy Letby was, quote, in pieces and almost as upset as we were. But of course, you'd have Evans and Detective Hughes saying, oh, she's acting, she's a clever criminal, she's very clinical. Doesn't sound clinical, does she? And this ability to be like an Oscar-winning actress at the drop of a hat and do it over a huge amount of time, as when Lucy Letby used to meet with Karen Rees, week in, week out, when Lucy Letby had been put on to admin duties for all that time, and Karen Rees said that Lucy Letby was in pieces every time she met her. No, because that's how she's feeling. It's just disgusting what they've done. I'll stop it soon because it's getting late. I'm quite tired, and perhaps I shouldn't have done it tonight. I'm just kind of working through this bit. I'm just reading through it. While dressing the baby for his parents, a standard part of helping grieving families, Lucy Letby accidentally pricked her finger with a needle. She hadn't eaten or taken a break all day, and as she was waiting to get her finger checked, she fainted. I didn't know, this is new to me. Quote, the overall enormity of the last 2 days had sort of taken its toll, she said. So you've got she's absolutely emotionally being worn down with all those rumours going around, while having to deal with this overload at the same time. She's 25 years old. You get people talking about Lucy Letby in court, oh, she's not emotional enough. She's been relentlessly pounded for years, but by the time that trial comes, how long has it been going on for? All this is happening in the hospital, and then since being taken off, since being under suspicion really within the hospital, even before the police become involved, then we're looking at 6-7 years and then a period of like a rest each year for 3 years. The stress of that would break the vast majority of people, and they're expecting her to be how they want her to perform all the time after all this emotional battering, psychological battering by this frankly, profoundly evil combination of forces. The police, the CPS, sickos like Evans, narcissistic freaks like these consultants. The overall enormity, I'll read that again, Lucy Letby, the overall enormity of the last 2 days has sort of taken its toll, she said. To imagine what those parents had gone through, to lose 2 of their babies, it was harrowing. The surviving triplet was taken to Liverpool Women's Hospital, saved the life of that baby, to get it away from Chester, get it away from the Countess of Chester unit, get it away from those doctors. Get that baby away from him, the boy, away from the last triplet, to a level 3 unit where they've got the right equipment, they've got much better staff, more staff for babies. And not talking about Lucy Letby, I'm talking about the doctors, obviously much more. They're just geared up for it. And this is something that somebody said the other day, a few times on Twitter. And it was a really interesting question. I'm sorry I can't remember who said it, and then other people echoed it. So I'm sorry if I can't remember who said it on Twitter. So obviously I follow a lot of accounts that are talking about this case, and obviously a lot of accounts that are in just as much disbelief that Lucy Letby is guilty as I am. And somebody said, well, if it was all just down to Lucy Letby, and only down to Lucy Letby as being a murderer and someone who attempts to murder many other babies as well, and it was nothing to do with the unit, nothing to do with the care there at all, or the failures in care, the negligence of the hospital and many of those doctors, then why hasn't the level gone back up to a level 2 unit after the RCPCH report brought it down to a level 1, kind of saying you're not up to the job? If it was just about a serial killer in the unit, why wouldn't they have returned? It's interesting to see what they would say about that. It's because they're not fit to take babies at that high level of acuity. They're just not. The surviving triplet was taken to Liverpool Women's Hospital, and his mother felt that the clinical staff there were more competent and organised, and that's why that baby, that last triplet, survived. Quote, it must be terrible for the parents of the triplets, and you've lost 2, and then... Quote, the 2 hospitals were as different as night and day. Indeed. No fault of Lucy Letby. She's doing everything she can with... they're just running her ragged, and she's doing everything she can, and it's destroying her, and then they blame her for it. Then they blame her for all the failures of the trust as a whole, of the unit as a whole, of all the medical failures. They just want to blame someone. 2 hospitals were as different as night and day. That's the parents saying that. The mum, yeah. The mum. That night, Breary called Karen Rees, the head of nursing for urgent care, and said that he did not want Lucy Letby returning until there was an investigation. This guy's a real piece of work, this Breary, isn't he? He's a real piece of work. It's got to be her fault because of the failures of the unit, because of the failures of the doctors, because of his failures, Jayaram's failures, Gibbs's failures, Dr. B's failures, other junior doctors' failures that aren't getting the support either. Because of the trust failures as a whole, that it shouldn't be running at a level 2. Anyway, it's not capable of doing it. It's dangerous, unsafe, as one of the consultants said. But he wants to go. He's going straight in there. See, this is interesting to me. This is why I want to go back to January 2016. There were 3 deaths in that January 2016. Yes, he's been trying to get Lucy Letby. He's been trying to spread it out. That's when he had that meeting with a neonatologist at a nearby hospital, isn't it? Breary. And I think Jayaram was there. But none of those deaths in January 2016 were ever investigated in respect of Lucy Letby. And after these deaths in June, there's another one in July, there's another one in August. Both also not related to Lucy Letby in any way. In terms of the investigation, I mean, these aren't related to her, anything that she's done wrong or anything, and obviously no intentional harm either. So this is what Breary does in his sociopathic kind of way. He's bullying, scapegoating kind of way, a really mean a mean and shabby individual, as is Jayaram. Back to this thing, they're going to do this drama, they're looking at these actresses who are going to play it. It's just obscene, but you'll never, you've probably seen this if you're following it. You know, Jayaram's going to be on the payroll for being an advisor, probably some kind of script advisor for it, you know, about the person playing him he'd probably love to play himself, wouldn't he? Jayaram will be there, you know, the guy that's got stars in his eyes, you know, wants to be a rock star and obviously now wants to play himself in a drama, or at least be, you know, seen as the great whistleblower hero. The baby's death seemed to be following Letby from night to day. Well, that's obviously not true. Because you've got other deaths in that year. You've got the three in January. And so it doesn't take account of them. So yeah, you could say that as long as you you could make that statement. Oh, it's following Lucy Letby. The deaths are happening. All the deaths are happening and following Lucy Letby from night till day, except for all the ones that aren't. And then nothing to do with Lucy Letby in terms of later investigations. So it's just the selection of this idea that, well, they've just pinned it on somebody who's completely innocent. They've chosen a subset of 7 deaths out of 19, possibly more than 19. And yet they want the narrative to keep going, oh, she's responsible for she's always there for all the deaths. Well, what about the other 12? Rees, that's Karen Rees, discussed the issue with Powell, Arian Powell, and she said that Powell told her, quote, Lucy Letby does everything by the book. She follows policy and procedure to the letter, yes. And she reports doctors, this is me speaking now, she reports doctors when they make mistakes, whereas other nurses wouldn't dare do it and don't want to do it. Lucy Letby will do it. Rees allowed Letby to keep working, quote, just because a senior healthcare professional requests the removal of a nurse, there has to be a sound reason, Rees said later. But obviously it's very soon down the line. It's June here, so in July, Lucy is taken away from nursing duties altogether. The next day, Lucy Letby was assigned a baby boy known as Child Q, who had a bowel infection. At one point, he was sent to Alderhay, the level 3 unit, but he was transferred back within 2 days. Taylor, I think that's Dr. A, texted Lucy Letby that Alderhay was, quote, so short of beds that they can only accommodate emergency patients. It's not good holistic care, and it's rubbish for his parents. Lucy Letby was also taking care of another newborn in a different room, and while she was checking on that baby, Child Q vomited and his oxygen levels dropped. After he stabilised, John Gibbs, a senior paediatrician, asked another nurse which staff members had been present during the episode. Quote, do I need to be worried about what Dr. Gibbs was asking? End quote. Lucy Letby texted Taylor after her shift. So she's constantly aware that she's under this scrutiny by these monsters, which is exactly the same MO and same dynamic as it hasn't changed since the 1600s and the witch trials, the witch craze that was in Britain and obviously all across Europe and Massachusetts and America, and hasn't changed at all. Once you get 1 or 2 real nasty characters focusing on someone, then you'll get other ones coming in saying, yeah, oh, I saw them look at my pig the wrong way and the pig died, or she's muttered under her breath as she walked along the lane, and now my child is unwell and got. It's just everywhere. It's the same mentality. It doesn't matter whether these people have been trained medically or not. That mind is still that 16th century mind that looking for a witch in this case, because they're under pressure, because they know that their things are going badly and have been going badly wrong in the unit for a long, long time, and they're looking for somebody to blame. And no doubt with a lot of these people that were accused of being witches, the people doing the accusations, they always had some kind of skin in the game, some kind of bitterness or rivalry, or sometimes it's over land or all kinds of things, just a nasty nature, that they want to target someone and feel a bit of power to destroy them. Here, with this group of consultants, they're trying to take the heat away from them. They're trying to push it off onto someone else. But Lucy Letby's worried about, what Gibbs is talking about here. No, he reassured her. That's Dr. A. Taylor reassures her. You can't be with two babies in two different nurseries at the same time, let alone predict when they're going to crash. If this, I can't, I've done other videos about it a long time ago, but if this is the baby that Evans says, a particular baby that was overfed with milk and injected with air and loads of milk deliberately by Lucy Letby, that's what he says. And the baby vomited all over the nursery. And it's just the exaggeration in the way he describes it. It's just insane. This is a tiny little baby in an incubator. Yes, it might be go on the side of the incubator, maybe even just slightly over. But he's saying it's all over the walls, all over the ceiling. It's just insane. I don't know. It shouldn't be possible that someone like him ends up doing anything of any note. Oh, you wouldn't want him to go to Greg's for a steak bake and a cream horn for you. You wouldn't want him to do anything, Evans. Nothing. He's just a liar and an exaggerator to such a ridiculous degree. He's a profoundly vile individual. So Dr. A, until he kind of lets Lucy Letby down, he's kind of supporting her until he doesn't. The management are supporting Lucy Letby again until they don't, until it stops. Quote, Lucy Letby, I know, and I didn't leave him on his own. They both knew I was leaving the room, she said, referring to a nurse inside the room and one just outside. Yeah, they're expecting her to be in two places at one time. But also, she can be, and they think she can be in two places at one time in order to be harming a baby when she's somewhere else. Quote from Dr. A. or Taylor. Nobody has accused you of neglecting a baby or causing a deterioration, he said. I mean, this is disingenuous because he must know that there's these rumours flying around here, there and everywhere. Lucy Letby must know about it. So, okay, they're not saying it, going right up to her face and saying it, but it's in the wind, it's everywhere around, isn't it? I mean, just the fact that Lucy Letby was moved off nights, well, was she saying, well, why would I be then? Well, what have I done wrong? They've never said. Never said what you've done wrong. Never said, on this occasion, you failed to do this, you failed to do that, and this was what happened. It's just rumour, bullying, rumour. Destruction of character, destruction of an individual, bit by bit. And almost in a horrific way, a kind of logical progression is to bring in these bozos in the police, and then this sicko Evans, and then the sick judiciary system with their stupid wigs and gowns these clowns, to fully destroy someone. It's a progression of this. All that came later is simply, and then the monstering by the sick media, is all a progression of this. And the public that just want serial killer stories and that would never look any further into it than that and just see it as entertainment. Lucy Letby says, I know, I just worry I haven't done enough. That's it, she's so super conscientious. How, he asked. Quote, we've lost, this is Lucy Letby, we've lost 2 babies I was caring for, and now this has happened today. It makes you think, am I missing something? Am I good enough? She said. And then he replies, he's got his ulterior motives, I think, and that's what people believe, stringing Lucy along inappropriately. He's married as well. He's being inappropriate with, and then he gets to be anonymous at the trial and kind of lets Lucy down, really. Lucy, he says, if anyone knows how hard you've worked over the last 3 days, it's me, he wrote. Quote, if anybody says anything to you about not being good enough or performing adequately, I want you to promise me that you'll give my details to provide a statement. And Lucy says, well, I sincerely hope I won't be ever needing a statement. I won't ever be needing a statement, she said. But thank you, I promise. I think I'll leave it there. Yeah, he supports her, perhaps genuinely to a degree, but until it gets too hot for him, and then it's like the idea, going back to the idea of the witch trials, the witch craze period, where people are accused. Somebody gets accused, and then they don't want to be, other people around them don't stick up for them, don't support them when don't support the accused person, don't want to be tainted by guilt by association, so they kind of melt away. They're not real friends, obviously. They're not real friends. They're not really genuine friends, are they? Not sure what else to say about that. I mean, there's so much more you could bring in, but I don't want to repeat stuff from previous videos, but the point of doing this is really to read through the article slowly and just think about it bit by bit. But the trial is starting on Monday, unfortunately, with the same judge, Goss. Of course, I hope very much that Lucy's found not guilty, or even if the jury is unable to reach a verdict, that would be something as well, but not guilty would be better. Things could be revealed in this trial that could be helpful to Lucy further down the line, I think. The weakness of Jayaram's testimony, the contradictions he got caught up in, and that Benjamin Myers made much of in the trial, made a certain amount of anyway. So I really hope they don't give Jayaram an easy ride. They've got to really go for him. Got to go for him. I don't know what's on their mind, the defence, we don't know. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Take care, everybody, and I'll pick it up another time and carry on. So he's just said, I'll support you if anyone ever criticises you, and she says, yeah, I hope I won't need it, but thank you, I promise. It's very sad, really, what they've done. I mean, it's horrific, but it's kind of sad how the sadness is that this is a genuine, very sensitive person, and I've said this in other videos much earlier on, is that they've gone for someone who is conspicuously innocent in all kinds of ways. I'm not saying that, she's not a person of the world, or she's been to university and trained at this very, very important job and is very good at it, but I'm saying that an innocent an innocent and open nature, and a very conscientious nature, as Arian Powell says, that Lucy Letby did everything by the book, everything, including, much to their chagrin, or much to their anger, report doctors for their mistakes, and wasn't shy about doing it, and it was her duty to do it. It was her duty to make those reports. But whereas a lot of other nurses wouldn't have done it because they wanted to keep in with it, don't want to upset these godlike consultant creatures. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Cheers. Thank you. Good night. Bye-bye.